You will notice that even though the report talks about the high prices of commodities, but it included the Intellectual Property Office, because as mandated by plenary, when we received the first communication, one of our colleagues in person of Normal South raised the issue of the Intellectual Property Office and suggested that because of the patent right, he thought that was an indirect monopoly. And so plenary decided that we include that in the discussion and deliberation. So as indicated in the report, the folks from the Ministry of Commerce were invited, and including the Director General of the Liberian Property Office, the Intellectual Property Office. The teams, both from the Intellectual Property Office and the Government Ministry, met with the committee, and the layout first beginning with the Intellectual Property Office. Some of the things that we didn't even know, the different protocols that we adhere to, and that the rights that are given when you obtain them from the manufacturer to sell, when you obtain them from the manufacturer, the companies have got no rights. And so if you obtain a patent right for a particular goods or a commodity from the manufacturer, you have that right. Then you have that sole right to distribute in that country. And so it's the same with Liberia. So she indicated that without monopoly, once the company obtains that patent right or a copyright, they will proceed with that. Coming to the Ministry of Commerce, the ministry informed us that besides the traditional charges that we know, besides those factors that influence prices, such as the cost of goods, the insurance and freight, there are additional charges now being put on prices by ourselves, to include methods, to include the GTMS, and other charges that still be doing, food charges, and the Liberian Senate. And looking at these, when the importers bring in the commodities, they have to pay all the charges that are levied. Obviously, they will be passed on to the consumers. The additional thing they indicated was their inability to regulate prices because, according to them, low monetary support, they don't have inspectors in the field, so sometimes scrupulous business will increase prices, ain't no place or arbitrarily. You got to know they are not checked. So these were brought before the committee. And so, my important colleagues, until we address the issue of the APM terminal charges, the issue of NetEx, and the GTMS, which is additional cost to the cost of goods imported in the country, it will be difficult to control prices. And so the Act is informed by that. Unless we address them, it will be more than difficult to alleviate some of the problems that we have. Another thing indicated by the folks of the Ministry of Commerce was the lack of coordination amongst agencies, the Liberian Revenue Authority, the NPA, Ministry of Commerce are responsible for setting up prices because the commodities come through the National Port Authority. Charges are levied on them by 8 p.m. The port, custom to the LRA and the Ministry of Commerce. Unless the agency quality, it will be difficult to address this problem. And so the committee decided that there will be a need to intervene and call additional hearing where we bring the other players on board so as to address the current situation we are. And finally, we concluded that for the Intellectual Property Office, it will be a good thing to invite them again. You already keep the time very limited. We took a lot of time on the commerce and price hike issue, and we did not actually adequately address that issue. So we invite them again, and then we put them there. Thank you.
Thank you. It's open for debate. And what's your comment?
Pro tem, distinguished colleagues, I brought to the attention of the Senate this problem. One thing I want us to know that always we can take example from other countries. The issue of the rate, like for example in Sierra Leone, the importers will bring their goods. The business people will go and buy. They will buy in leons instead of buying in dollars. So from there, I think this is one of the ways for us to regulate the prices. The business people going to do a money exchange. Sometimes they go higher, and they too, they want profit. So we need to make the importers to accept the Liberian dollars. Another thing, the rate. When the rate goes up, when you are selling the goods for $30, it remains $30. When the rate drops, you are selling the good for $30, they will add up in US. Instead of $30, they will make it $35 or $40. They don't want the common man to benefit. So we need to look at that too. I think we have understanding where the issues are, the rates. And the rate is not issues. William, thank you. I left him.
Thank you, Protem. Let me thank the committee for its work. Protem, there are multiplicity of problems or issues, and I don't think it's very unusable news. There are multiplicity of issues, and I don't think it's just limited to some of the things we mentioned. For example, we deal with price control and quality control. So, two issues, for example. Flour. The flour we produce in Liberia is not coming by ship. It's produced right here. But if you look at the price of flour in the sea, right here, Freetown, Sierra Leone, and in Liberia, Liberia is 1.5 times more than that of Sierra Leone. That is locally produced with monopoly. There, monopoly, so that's another issue. But there's monopoly in Sierra Leone, they're manufacturing it there. Then if you look at even steel rod, now most of the people that are building, they buy steel rods and other things from other countries, put in the trucks and bring it here. So nobody else allowed to bring in steel rod. We're supposed to have steel rod being manufactured in Liberia, but it's far more expensive than when you import it. And the grade is even lower than when you import it. So we are even afraid now to do high-rise building because of the quality of the steel rod. The other issue that the community needs to look at, because almost all the businesses here, these big businesses, they have their offices either in Dubai or Lebanon or depending on where they're comfortable. And they have subsidiaries. So when they buy the goods from the manufacturer of the missiles, it's bought by the sub-office in either Dubai or wherever, and then the sub-office now sell it to them here using the price that they want to use here. So we need to get the Ministry of Commerce through the Commerce Committee to look at those, because prices are just climbing every day. And if we don't take our time to look at the nitty-gritty to know what is the cost, are the cost factors, it's not just about shipment or freight. Yes, those issues are very important. But we need to look at how prices are structured. And the Ministry of Commerce needs to go beyond just freight and steering duty and local charges that are being implemented here in Liberia. So my suggestion in taking the committee would be let's look further. You can't have the steel rod or cement being manufactured here. You now put it on the ship to bring it here, but the price is higher than when you import it from other countries. So I think we need to look into it. Thank you, Professor.
Senator Matikona, followed by Senator Coker.
Madam President, thank you very much. And I also want to thank the Committee of Comments for the report. On this situation that we are handling is indeed very, very complicated. It needs to be addressed in many aspects. Our people will continue to suffer unless we take the appropriate actions. As my colleague just said, talk about the quality control, how to follow quality, that one aspect of it. You talk about GTMS, you talk about method, rendering almost similar. So when ATM terminal is added, it creates more problem for our people. And all of these charges, wherever they are taken from the importers, they are passed on to the consumers. All two of them rendering the similar sentences, one after one inside, and the same sentences are supposed to be rendered by one institution, and they're charging our people. And at the end, the charges are passed on to the consumer. Interestingly, Madam Presiding, ATM terminal is one of the institutions. I don't know how that law is. My information is ATM terminal has a law in its possession that is claiming always that they are at liberty to increase their charges every year. And when they increase those charges, they pass on to the consumer. To me, that concession that ATM terminal has in its possession needs to be reviewed. Let's see the necessity of it. If it can be maintained and the act of arbitrarily increasing charges that they say is enshrined in the law, is looked at because it's affecting our people. So we need to look at this situation and not even giving it any long time because our people are suffering in the hands of these people that are at the poor, are massing wealth at the expense of the poor people. Thank you.
Senator Coker, followed by Senator Taylor.
Madam President,
fellow colleagues, let me extend my commendation to our learned colleague, Honorable Ellis Taylor of Bombay County, for the deliberation or communication to this upper body. When approaching, we listen to the recommendation contained in this report. But one of the factors that we didn't hear about, we never heard about, has to do with tariff. Tariff is one of the issues that we need to look at carefully. Imposition of tariff in Liberia, we're rejecting the West African region. The essence of tariff, it also serves as a means of regulating or controlling business trading between country to country to avoid smuggling, pipeline quotation, and etc. I think the West African, ECOWAS as a whole, this organization is also mentioned, it's there to mitigate problems to avoid smuggling of goods into another country. Meaning, if you observe the tariff in the very communities and also observe the currency, you will be able to regulate your price based on the goods and the tariff within your community. One, you harmonize within the region. The second aspect has to do with the issue of GTMS and the MEDEX. MEDEX, from my understanding, carries similar function with Asekuda. And the Asekuda is operated by the government. If Asekuda is there to regulate and know the pricing and not the pricing, the value of a good declared, as well as the commodity qualitative wide, why would we hire MEDEX to also do similar job? It means that the government is knowledgeable to control her own importation and tariff regulations. With GTMS, I believe they are responsible for tracking goods from the various country of origin until they land into the country. So for them, there are people who monitor the activities and also get assurances to lead for the consignor relative to the goods entering the country. But Mr. President, the issue that has to do with the institutional regulation, the Ministry of Commerce, the Ministry of Finance or LRE, the National Food Authority, these are institutions that are supposed to work in collaboration because their operation is somehow consistent. The Ministry of Commerce is the one who receives the goods and the price of the country of origin. Inform the Ministry of the LRA that this is a country of origin of the goods are entering, and these are the actual price of the goods. Then the LRA will regulate that. They are now working in collaboration. And then the MPA now, when those regulations are made, are the ports, they are the recipient and also releasing. They release the goods from the port based on the information from Commerce and Ministry of Finance or LRA. That consistency is not existing. The worst one has to do with APM terminal. APM terminal is only after to collect fees. What do I mean? Knowingly, willfully, intentionally, vehemently, that you are the one who wants vessel to land or to back in Liberia, and knowing that the territory or the terrain to receive a vessel, only 2 vessels can enter per certain given time. You brought in 15 vessels. As you enter Liberian soil, you collecting fees from them, knowing that you are supposed to regulate. And no regulation are taking place. The approach is narrow.
So you brought in container, you are also there to come in. And the businessman who brought in containers will be charged and not be charged, and you're negligent, then you're collecting fees. It will create increment in the prices of the businessman. Because whatsoever liability he or she incur will be placed on the overhead. APM terminal, the regulation, where they are responsible for handling charges and they have to do it. How do you regulate container vessel to birth at the free pool and how what time? The critical issue there with the breathing of goods, you have essential, perishable goods. You got rice. Reader season, you brought in 2 containers of rice are supposed to be discharged. Then at the same time, you got dry goods container. Then you say that we are waiting for the container to be discharged before we bring in the rice. A delay. Once the rice vessel is there, they are afraid that when they delay, the shaper or the owner of the ship will increase whatsoever liability they incur. We are the consumer will be the one. Someone can help me anyway. The loser, because we are the end user, eventually whatsoever price or difficulty they face, we will take the responsibility. So we need to ask, or the committee need to invite the APM terminal to tell us how do they allow vessel to berth at the free pool of Monrovia.
So that those things can be avoided.
Now, we are willing to contribute to whatsoever committee as it relates to communication and come on the floor. But we need to look into this matter. It's a very serious issue in creating problem. Those days, the issue of mushroom, there was a mushroom those days that our people use as a chicken soup. They grow on a tree. And when people go on, they find the harvesting, they cook it up, palawa salt, they just go and pick it, rinse it, and put it in soup. They make it very good. But now, it's not only a step. But we are taking chicken soup to be non-essential commodity. I think in my mind it's supposed to be essential goods. No, you are not presiding. It's for presiding, not to make you want to do. So, madam, we need to look at it very carefully. Which one of the goods will they contemporary life we live in now that we consider essential goods? That the locals consider to be everyday good to classify it in a category. And which one we consider non-essential, and which one is placed in luxury category. In my mind, cigarette, liquor, these are all luxurious goods. Who in the interior want to, if you want to bring liquor, we increase the bed buy it. But if somebody is bringing soap, in the morning, if everybody needs soap, most of the people are in the interior to wash clothes. If you put it on non-essential commodity, eventually the price is high. Because the brackets of taxation depends on the classification of goods. Arrest.
Senator Taylor,
thank you, Proton and colleagues. You know, the foundation of a country is not set. You stand to discuss the kind of things that have to do with prices and inflation all over the place. Liberia is the only country in West Africa that still having all her transactions in US dollar. Yes. Other people come, sell, take our money, and take it out of the country, and we complain. That's what happened to us. Prices will continue to get high. And even, my colleagues were just talking about goods that are imported in the country, but what about goods that are produced right here? Prices are still high. Liberia is the only country in West Africa that depends on foreign people to import even the rice that we eat. Why can't we give the importation right to ourselves? Because if you have the importation right to yourself, you will compromise the hacking of price with mercy for your people. Everybody come here and ask for sometimes duty-free. We give them all those incentive rights, and they still inflate the price. For example, we are buying steel rod $6 in Liberia until we give incentive right to other people here, and the steel rod price, the cheapest one, went to $13. When they were importing steel rod, we had it here for $6. Now it's gone to $13. Until we start giving the right to ourselves to import, then we will get to know the level of profit that business people are making in the country, and we don't even have the power or the technical know-how to investigate how much they are paying, what it costs to come here, and they just inflate prices on our people, and they pay. And you're talking about creating the middle class. The best way to create the middle class is to take some of the importation right from the people and have it to Liberians, and Liberians will import, and they will tell you the real price, why it is. If we don't do that, every day we will continue to complain here that prices are high, nothing happening in the country, the economy is so poor, and nothing happening. Look, in Ghana, it is not even a law, but the Bar Association agreed that if you wanted to do business in Ghana, you must include a Ghanaian that will carry 50 plus 1. If not, you will not register that business no matter how much money you carry there. It's just clear. But every day, we depend on the foreign people to bring chicken soup for us here, to bring baby tablet, milk. I have to say Liberians, if our people are not qualified to do it, let us put a few $1 million to train them. Every day we say Liberians are not qualified. Let us put a few $1 million to train them. Send them in other country to learn how to do businesses, come by, and let them do it. And you will see the difference. But look, with the present situation in the country, no matter what we do here, we put the money in the budget. The money goes directly to the foreigners. And you think they came here to help you? They came to maximize profit. They will invest from here and invest more in our home. And that's why they are developing our country. And we are just here every day. Oh, the other person, John Brown, help us. John Brown doing well. John Brown credit us. If you gave the right to liberate the people, all the companies abroad looking for people to sell for them. The whole world living on debit and credit. Chubby, I'm telling you. And that's what they're doing. Most of them come here and make more profit. In 2 years' time, the people are taking all the whole single. The Liberians are behind the horses now. They took all the big junctions. And we are living behind them, but we're talking plenty. And every day we say we'll do something. The best way out is to give the importation right to Liberians, and that way we can control the price. If we ourselves bringing the goods, we know how much we pay for it, we can control the price. Thank you.
Senator Brown, followed by Senator Amorakona.
Thank you, President. Distinguished colleagues, let me also thank the Committee on Commerce for this report. When I read the report, I was keen on looking at the recommendations. I mean, if you look at their findings, what are the items that affect the pricing structure of commodities that we use? Very long. The question is, some of these services, do we really need them? Continue tracking all these other ones. After so many years, what is still the relevance of having APM terminal? Is the port not yet capacitated after all the years? Then what was in the concession agreement? I thought APA terminal came from the inception that MPA at the time did not have the requisite capacity. So they needed to fill that gap. But after the years, do we still need ABM tender? How long will we continue to have ABM tender? Mente, do we, some of these things just come up? How do they come about in the first place? How do these services come about? My recommendation, I will put to the committee. They did a brilliant job, but I think we need to encourage them to do more, hold public hearings, to ascertain whether some of these services are still needed. We need to have that discussions, pro tem and police, we need to have that discussions. If we are saying these are the factors that are driving the high cost of living in our country, then we need to ask the hard questions. Do we still need these services? Are they benefiting us? Are they benefiting the Liberian people? Why are we still having them? These are the questions the public hearings will establish. They also mentioned the exchange rate, and I was looking to see whether they invited the Central Bank of Liberia. Monetary policies also affect monetary policies that we impose also affect pricing. If we make a policy that will increase the flow or the supply of Liberian dollars on the market, we are in effect reducing the value of the Liberian dollar. One of the policies that government took, employees used to make the salaries one salary, but the policy was 20% in LD, 80% in USD. But we took a new decision that increased the Liberian portion by 10% to 30%. And that affected the exchange rate because we put more Liberian dollars on the market. Once the price, the formula remains the same, demand and supply, it remains constant. So whenever you affect the supply of a product, it will also affect its price. That's what happened in the exchange rate. So we thought that the committee will invite the Central Bank of Liberia to see how they intend to intervene, because that is their role. If they see that a policy of the government is driving prices, they have to adapt some other measures that will stabilize it. So we need to ask CBL how are they doing it so that the Liberian dollar should be stabilized. But more importantly, my recommendation to the committee is that we need to have public hearings on this. This is important. It's not just Ministry of Commerce. As I said, they have meeting with the Ministry of hearing with the Ministry of Commerce, but I think we need to go beyond the Ministry of Commerce. We need to ask some hard questions. All of these people that are here charging every little commodity that we put in our houses that affect the cost, these people need to be invited. We need to do an evaluation to see whether we really still need these services. Thank you.
Senator, I'm going to comment followed by Senator Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Let me join colleagues to, first I want to thank my colleague, Senator Kane, for raising this issue. And I want to thank the committee for the excellent report. Like Senator Brown, the recommendations are many. Madam Pro Tem, distinguished colleague, this is an economic issue. And I would like to approach this through the economic lens to help us work with the appropriate institutions in the executive branch to address them. First, I want us to look at price control, those who are advocating for price control and the impact it will most likely have on an economy such as ours. You know, price control can have maximum price or minimum price, height and ceiling. Either one of them may give us short-term benefit. For example, politically speaking, prices might be reduced, but always, everywhere that government intervenes with prices, in the long run, it can affect welfare. It can affect quality. And we'll go back to status quo. I'm sure we've done that with some of the commodities we are talking about. So it's not just a commerce issue. It is an economic issue that I hope this Senate can officially communicate with the President of Liberia for serious discussion at the level of his economic management team. But yes, prices are rising. Controlling the prices by the government, too much government intervention in the economy is not good in the long run. Then I want to come to the exchange rate. We have a dual currency regime in our country, Liberian dollar and US dollar. And that can affect the economy through many channels. For example, it can lead to inflation. It can lead to price distortion, like we are discussing, like my colleague raised and the committee looked into. It can also affect the quality of the competitiveness or the commodities that are produced domestically, as in Senator Snow's argument that with all the monopoly to the steel company, they are still producing inferior steel. That is now causing people to think about building high-rises for fear that they may collapse in the future. Welfare, long-term welfare, when you intervene. This is the argument. In the case of the flour, that's a monopoly. Just like we're giving monopoly to egg manufacturers, producers in this country, but yet we are still bringing eggs from outside because of the demand for eggs. Why? Because the domestic manufacturers are not producing to the level where they can meet demand. Distortion. So, this is a broader economic issue. The Senate can discuss it like we are doing now. This is a good debate. But I hope that the solution will come from across the street than from here. Our colleague, Senator Dopo, he will come on the floor, in our chat room a few weeks ago, proposed that we should do a law here that will force those who are exporting high-value products that they are getting from our country to repatriate the proceeds back to Liberia. Iron ore, gold, etc. Let me tell you why this is important. Nigeria is doing that. 90 days, you have to repatriate the money that you got for the raw material you produce in Nigeria so that it can help to deal with this exchange rate. Maybe this is one thing we ought to consider as a body. This is within our purview as lawmaking, as a lawmaking institution to effect how the exchange rate can be managed in our country. Right now, as we speak, Madam Pro Tem, distinguished colleague, We are at almost 4 months of exports in terms of the US dollars we have in the vault in this country, based on the latest IMF visit. Normally, it should be 3 months. When it gets to 3.5 months, we should be concerned. How do we prove this? Just go to the bank for US dollar, you will get dirty notes. If I'm lying, say I'm lying. They will give you dirty notes, and you most likely will get another $5 note. Why? Because the high denomination, the US dollar, the clean one, is no longer here. All of this is playing into the issue Senator Boto raised in terms of pricing. So we need to consider this export repatriation thing for the commodities that are coming from our country, sent abroad and the money never comes back, except for their operating costs. That's what they cover. So, good arguments. I just wanted to add the economic piece of it based on my old work, and then see how we can work with the executive branch to address some of these issues so that we can bring relief to our people. Thank you.
Senator Zero, followed by Senator Chala.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the committee for its work. Committee of Commerce. Our Pro-Tem, distinguished colleagues, let me join my colleagues in the speeches. For all the things we're doing, we wanted their result. And we are definitive about what we're doing and how we press implementation oversight for the executives to do its work. The fees that are being charged, the taxes imposed or levied, and sometimes we cannot control price here because every time we do importation and there's war market issue, it will eventually affect the price of commodities here. But one of the key things that we are not, the inspectorate department at the Ministry of Commerce needs to beef up. Substandard goods, commodity on the market. I can tell the last time that inspectorate department at the Commerce Ministry was in the field. Yeah, the last time the inspectorate department was in the field when they were looking for progress. But now we remove them so we can make it different. Our inspectorate now, our inspectorate, we got to make it different, vibrant, and workable for our people. The solution to this very beautiful report is oversight. An example of a functional oversight is the work permit issue. The way they send it institutionally have taken that issue so that we know that jobs are here and Liberians can get those jobs. Had it not been for effective, consistent oversight, persistent, probably wouldn't be reaching the world vision. The fees in the port, doing business in our country is challenging. The last time, somebody from the Land Commission and I were talking about the land issue in this country, and they were asking for solution to the land crisis. I'm taking this so we can understand what I'm talking here. The probate court, Madam Pro-Tem and distinguished colleagues, the probate court of Liberia is a problem when it comes to the land issue in the country, how we can solve it is to digitalize the system and put it in the database so that that court, when that court get one land 10 times. If it is in a database, it will digitalize. It's in a database. By the time you take your land there, they plug in the mix and bounds of the place. It will come up in the database. Say this place is already gone, so we get probably a new deed. All I'm saying here is, if we start to put our digital law, our system, like the business registry, one sharp place, one sharp center for all these things. The time to register business and do business in Liberia is challenging because you got to move from a player, go that place there, delay on the side, the bureaucracy on the side. All these things, we need to reform them. It can help to cut down costs. Without CTM, it's becoming monotonous in my ear now. CTM methods, every time we talk about doing business in the port and the challenges, we blame CTM methods. Until we put our feet down on CTM methods, it will only be discussions and speeches. And we're not going anywhere. So I want to thank the committee for its report. I think the Senate will have to vote on specific issues and send our vote result to the executive for implementation and follow up the implementation. If after certain time, no result, no impact, we ask the executive as to why. Anything short of that, everybody here know me, I'm a faithful senator. So when we in session, I can be looking at what the public saying about this discussion. One of the key comments on this money statement right now, we're only making speeches here and nothing could come already. I hope it will not just be another round of speeches and then it goes down the drain. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Jala. Followed by Senator Open and then followed by Senator Topo.
Thank you, Madam President. I would agree with my previous speakers suggesting a review of the ATM terminal agreement, specifically with respect to its capacity, if any, to levy prices or to assign price to any goods or services here, besides what it may have with our MPA. I remember when I was in the executive for committee legislature, there was a World Bank that brought the APM terminal idea. They bring good things here, but sometimes the way they set up. They asked us to go and look at, the freeport was in chaos. Containers were not normal. The gauge of the container and have them different, but the way you see the container now on normalized, you know, they are now normal. You can go, you can stay here and refer to your container and ask for a way to get it out of the port. The way containers were packed and cataloged was a complete difficulty at the port. That precipitated the coming of the ATM terminal to the best of my knowledge. But to see a report suggesting, which I participated in the hearing, that there can be price for services for this and that without the acquiescence of commerce and Freeport is bizarre. It's a no-man island. It has to be local. Specifically, we can send out requests to look at their capacity to make price and advise us. That's number one. Price control in a free market like Liberia is a no-go area. We cannot attempt to put a measure in place for price control because that is the office of supply and demand. The supply and demand of goods and services determine the prices. So if we attempt to regulate that, it will not hold with the system of economy we have, or economy we have. We're in a free market. Also, we need to realize as a government that prices are influenced by duties and taxes. That is why, if you go to places like Delaware in the US, you have a different preferential trade. You go to Togo in West Africa, you have a different preferential trade. Until, if you look at our tax regime, it's the beginning of our trouble for price control or for price hike. Our tax regime, if you look at our taxes, you get tax for this, you get tax for this, you get tax for that. And basically, we saw it when the hearing. And everybody is taking advantage to maximize their prices, not necessarily looking at the goods and services. So the government will need to look at its tax regime in terms of law, how and when taxes are levied, how and when duties are bound. It will help us in the price activity. Otherwise, we'll talk some. But those are the key areas. First, look at Liberian terminal and see what is capacity to levy prices for goods and services and how. In the presence of the National Food Authority, because they were supposed to be there to help the National Food Authority as an internal agent to make sure the food was organized as the chaos were in before. Also, price control primarily should only be based on invoices we receive for goods and services as the inspectorate become tougher. If the inspectorate regime is strong, they will know that people are multiplying their prices on a daily basis, not based on the importation of their goods and services. And then number three, we cannot eat our cake and have it. The government cannot be crying for high prices for its people, and then levying high taxes and duties for goods and services coming through the port. We cannot have it both ways. So those are my own take, Madam Pro Tem, that we can make progress on. Thank you.
Senator Gopo, followed by Senator Jim Smith. Senator Jim.
Pro Tem, distinguished Senator, when I listened to Senator DeLong talking about the last time, especially on the sea, I begin to think that it would have been difficult when they were focusing on the issue of rights, while they want to focus on the issue of retention. But as it is now, I think we can make progress as a country, since we have addressed the issue of proper rights and retention and common benefit. You can control price. Price control is not a low policy. Price control is not a no goal. I have a full-fledged economy. I'm an economic fellow, not just my fellow. Economic fellow. So while Senator Colonel raised is the issue of symmetrical pricing. What do I mean? It's pricing. When the exchange rate fluctuates, when the Liberian dollar, for example, depreciate, the business people will increase prices to be able to compensate for that depreciation, so they have a stable currency of the US dollar. But then when it goes the other way, they keep the price as it lays. It means that they do not adjust on the other way. So when price said that the exchange rate was $1 to 180, for example, and then it goes to $1 to $200 Liberian dollar, they add the price up. But then when the US dollar drop, they don't reduce prices. That is asymmetrical pricing. They have to do with price control. The government can put into place policy to control that. In other jurisdictions, you have a cap limit that if there's an appreciation free, but there's an appreciation of other currency by about 5%, businesses are giving up to 30 days to adjust symmetrically. But in this type of context, it's asymmetrical and also affecting prices. So you can control that. So price control can go in place. The other issue that Senator Collins raised in December of last year, I, along with about 10 senators, sponsored and co-sponsored the export proceed repatriation bill, which is before this committee. The importing of the export proceeds Senator Collins raised is just so unfortunate that while we say that Liberia is the only country in West Africa, or even in Africa, that has a dual legal tender, it's unfortunate that we'll be the only country, but yet the only country that does not place any quota on repatriation or proceeds. In fact, we should be the only country in the world that should do that, because we have dual currency. We should be the only country in the world that will say that everybody, any amount go out of Liberia based on our resources should be brought back to our bank, because we get dual currency.
Where's our bill?
That will protect our currency. That will help. The third amount will be retained in our local banks. It will also provide employment. It will indirectly increase taxes. At the same time, it will stabilize the currency, because during July or May, June, and down of November, December, when people are looking for higher rates to go and buy to China and other countries, they will have the money in the bank there. The US have to get. At this beginning of giving period of time. Police, now you see the importing. It's before all. I understand that the committee will be having a public hearing on the 9th of July on the export proceeds. Appreciate that. The other one I want to raise Madam President. Trade classification. The last time I checked, we passed the APN terminal agreement with no provision for review. Well, as a country, I remember in 2020, Senator Snow, along with a few other representatives, led a committee to Accra to look at the practices of our own team, along with Koga, Senator Snow, to look at APN terminal activities in Ghana. Okay? And part of the discussion that came up, we argue that indeed we don't have a provision. But this is a sovereign country. How do we pass a law and say because it's not written there, so we cannot review it? I think we're encouraged by our colleagues there that we need to take an action at the legislature and let APN terminal go to court. We need to test that. Let them go to court. That because there is no provision for revision, therefore we cannot review, we should take a decision on that. I understand in March, the executive set up a committee to review the APM terminal agreement. We don't know how far we are with that. We need to take note on that because APM terminal activity impact pricing. The issue of mental and CTA, yes, we need the services because one is doing designated inspection, the other one is doing tracking of continuum. However, it should not be at a disadvantage to our people. To the extent that METEC, like in the case of Beaver, was providing invoicing to be able to assess the import duty and other tariff at the port. At the same time, there's also custom assessment. That's a contradiction. There's no way that you say you're using this group for DR. At the time, we're considering custom duty, but because we have Beaver and we're doing free shipment, so when you come to the country now, then we have to do a validation. But in this case, there's no longer free shipment, there is destination inspection. There's no need that materials will have a value to be assessed at the same time, custom have a value. That is a recipe for, I would say, destruction, corruption, and inflation. The recipe for that. But I just want to bring the attention of this to the plenary that we took a decision here as part of trying to solve the problem of crisis, and we should enforce it. That is the value-added tax. The introduction of the value-added tax against the GST that is currently being taxed at the port of entry will also help to reduce prices, because the goods and service tax is cascading. As you come in, it is taxed. As it gets to the receiver, it is taxed. In the case of value added, every layer has the tax added, so the consumer will not feel the beat. So we need to enforce that. That will help the process. So, but I put in distinguished colleagues, in respect to the concern of our colleague and the work being done by the committee, I think the Ministry of Commerce will have to be brought in here. Like we did the case with labor, there are a lot of things that Commerce can do and not being done. We need to bring the Ministry of Commerce here. The issue of the basic registry rate, we can look at that. Because I was a contributor of going basic like 2010, one of the contributors, and we laid out the step, and like we were doing better. Today we are going backward. The single senator, I will be glad that you saw us in the discussion and the passage of the export proceed repatriation. That's all it. Thank you.
Madam Pro Tem, distinguished senators, I'm so happy today for this type of healthy debate, because there is nobody in this chamber that is not feeling the brunt of what we're talking about. It's a national issue. We need to muster the political will to address them. I want to also commend my colleagues for identifying the different factors that are resulting in the hardship that all of us experience. In addition to the multi-tariffs impacting the prices of basic commodities, I am concerned about the health of our currency in the country. It is a shame today that for you to put your hand in your pocket and give $1 to somebody a week, mutilated. We need to, as Senator Brown said, there should be a national debate. The central bank should come. What is happening? Where all the money in the country that even central bank gave you 100,000 and for more than 10,000 would be useless. When we were coming up, there was a general saying that I will take my writing money to the bank for them to change it. But it is the bank now that producing the writing money. It is a shame. So the health of our own currency, adding to the hardship that we are experiencing. You can say ordinary people, because for the ordinary people, when the hardship is too much, they come to the officials for assistance. And so, Madam Pro Tem, there is a very serious national issue. The last time, even I can go to my house now and give you more than 50,000 branching money that along with time I have sorted out. And interestingly, when people carry the writing money back to the bank in terms of deposit or whatsoever, the bank's refusing them. The banks
decision. And so, I really appreciate this discussion. We should make a decision on it. We should bring all the stakeholders to the table. Let's discuss this. Thank you very much.
A lot of the issues have been addressed by police. I just want to bring a few things to the attention of the committee. The first thing is crisis in Monrovia versus crisis in the rural area. That was not addressed. So I hope the committee can look at that. I know the price in Monrovia affects our price too, but sometimes the prices are outrageous. So please look at that. The next issue is other factors that affect prices that I didn't hear about is security situation and political situation, or perceived security situation and perceived political situation. That affect price because those factors affect insurance. Or we hear that for the goods from China, the insurance in Liberia is higher than the insurance of Cote d'Ivoire because of perceived political situation and perceived security situation. So also reflect that. Then value addition to goods produced here and locally produced goods. For example, steel. Sometimes when I hear a debate, we must add value, There's a positive side and there's a downside. One of the factors that affect price, the output, are poor or weak infrastructure, especially the cost of energy. To produce steel, the cost of energy is prohibitive. Very high cost of energy. When the price of energy is high and you must produce steel, the price of the steel has to be high. If the price is not high, maybe that's why you see people produce inferior quality of steel. So now in all cases that you must add value, now be careful how we do that. Sometimes you can achieve what you want to achieve. If you open the market to importation, that importation can employ a lot of people. Sometimes as compared to opening one little factory to produce steel. That will be counterproductive. So even refining, oil refinery, gold refinery, those are high energy consuming processes. For example, if you look at the sub-region, in most instances, prices are lower than here. So all these factors, when you combine them, you will see how they affect the prices here. So we have to look at everything in a comprehensive manner. The committee can go back and come with additional factors and additional consideration. Let me put it.
Thank you. I think we're clear on it today. Don't have any more start. We'll take a motion, but before that, if the committee mentioned in a report commerce inability to regulate, then that means commerce is just saying that no regulation is being enforced. So that's a serious issue. Commerce will come here to present their plans for regulation, for price regulation, because as it is, if they don't have the ability to do so, all of the discussions we're having here cannot be enforced. So while the committee is doing more work, there are certain things we need to look at. We need to look at that immediately. we need to look at the Inspector of Commerce. As was mentioned, we need to review monopoly. Because if we have flour cheaper in Sierra Leone, and flour is being produced here, and they have monopoly, and you're 3 times higher than Sierra Leone, is a problem. So those are issues that we look at. We also have to engage the port about port expansion. If they cannot accommodate the amount of vessels that are coming in here, they need to tell us if they have a plan in doing so. The cost of energy, as President Norton said. So it's a whole package that we need to look at for all the different sectors. So I don't know if we want the committee to continue the work or we want to seize it as committee of the whole and put it on for our reform engagement and make sure that we make the kind of progress collectively that we want to make. So the corner also mentioned us informing the executive. I think it's a good idea to say that this is one discussion and the president will look at some of our recommendations. That does not stop the oversight function that we want to apply here. So we'll get a motion with all of these interventions and see how we want to do it. Send us know and Senator Topo's bill, I think it's key. So you need to Senator Topo, you need to circulate that bill again, or the soft copy in the room, circulate it again, let's prioritize it as one of the prerequisites for this. Senator Snow.
My protest, distinguished colleagues, my protest having listened to the committee report, followed by a healthy debate, I move, if I can obtain a second, that this report be used for a public hearing. All of the critical issues mentioned, and thereafter the Senate can derive a way forward in engaging the executive for a permanent solution.
Second.
Second of those distracted the lower housing to consult. So, yes, please.
Pro Tem, once you were distracted by the lower house, I moved. Well, Pro Tem, distinguished colleague, by Pro Tem having listened to the committee report, followed by a very healthy debate, I move, if I can obtain a second, that a public hearing be conducted on these critical issues in addition to those raised by you and other senators, and thereafter the Senate, under the leadership, can derive a proposal to the executive for implementation for the enhancement and improvement of our commerce.
We've already stated our motion, very good motion. I'm ready to vote. I'm ready to ask the chair.
Are you ready to vote? If the movement has said that the public hearing be held in committee of the whole.
I graciously accept.
Anytime, timeline to that motion.
Next week, Wednesday. All right.
Thursday?
Next week, Thursday.
Huh?
Yes.
Wednesday.
Wednesday is okay.
So, that session. So, Thursday for session. So that will be one agenda item for Thursday to treat it as a project.
Thursday, July 10th.
Thursday, July 10th.
Who are we inviting?
Hearing day. Amen. State your readiness.
So, are you ready to vote? If you want to state your readiness, and I'm to quiet.
Yeah. I will be ready to vote if the women will accept that we should invite the Minister of Commerce, NPA, APM Terminal,
CBL.
LRA for all of them to come.
CBL. For any day you need LEC.
LEC with industries. NPA for industries. Yeah.
Yeah, CBL.
CDL and LEC. Move on. Secretary Senate. Secretary Senate, you will read the list. All right, with that, are you ready to vote?
Ready.
All in favor say yea. And please, Secretary Senate, you read that list so we don't.
The Minister of Commerce, the NPA, the APM Terminal, the LRA, CBL, the LEC, and the Liberian Business Registry. That's what.
Because after then,
Secretary Senate, please can all of them out.
Okay.
Next.
July 10th, at what time?
At 10 o'clock, next Thursday. No, Thursday, 10 o'clock.
11.
Then 11 should be 11.
10 o'clock consultation, 11 o'clock. Yeah. Secretary Senate.
Report from Steering Committee. Report from the Senate Committee on Judicial Human Rights Claims and Petitions on the confirmation hearing of Anthony Victoria Wallabout Duncan, resident Saki George, designated 13 Judicial Circuit Road, Maikiri County.
When you fill out report, Secretary Senate, fill out report to system.
Report from the Committee on Foreign Affairs on the confirmation here of Honorable Mohammed M. Dukle, Ambassador designated to the Arab United Arab Emirates, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The Committee on Foreign Affairs the credentials of the nominee, coupled with his demonstrated ability to respond to inquiries, supported by his conduct during the hearing. It is the considered opinion of the committee that Honorable Dukle be confirmed to the position as mentioned above. During this first day of July 2025 in committee room. Signed, members of the Committee on Foreign Affairs by the President Pro Tempore.
The distinguished colleagues, now the report on the confirmation as a confirmation report for Mohammed M. Dukle, Ambassador to the United Arab Emirates. What is the will and pleasure to the Ghana?
presiding, the report we have read by the Committee of Foreign Affairs concerning the confirmation of His Excellency Ambassador Duplin be endorsed by the Senate by way of vote. I can second it.
Well, are we sitting around the vote? Take all the vote for the vote on the record. We are voting on the record for the confirmation of Mohammed Duplin.
I vote yes.
I gotta see my sister.
Blessing Finley, vote yes.
I vote yes.
Vote yes.
Senator Samaji Koba.
I vote yes.
Reggie County. Senator Zoe Manabino. Senator Thomas Jaya.
Vote yes.
Senator Christopher Jala.
I vote yes.
The Mawati Cyrus.
Tell us no, you're fine.
Only counters in the FBM.
I saw the process I'll be.
Senator Snow.
Huh?
I say why you want to
Confirmation.
Vote.
Senator.
But I'm already paying here now for the next thing I vote.
Like when I was sent off for me candidate vote?
Yeah.
Oh, I vote yes.
You will know what it means.
Senator. Tyler.
Yes.
Senator Mark County. Senator Tony.
Vote yes.
Senator Natalia Edmund Hill.
Vote yes.
Rogers County Senator, whatever you want to say.
Abstain. To be followed about movement reconsideration.
Rogers County Senator, County Senator, Albert Tupechi.
Yes.
Senator Unity Patekwa.
I vote yes.
River County Senator Jonathan Rogers. Senator Francis S. Booker II. Pablo County Senator Booker Kane. Yes. Senator Anna.
Yes.
I'm already here.
Yes.
Madam Presiding, and President Pro Tempore of the Senate, distinguished senators, the result. 17 senators voted in favor of the motion.
How many?
17.
18, don't be checking you, Yabo Brown.
Not against and one abstain. We have a total vote of 18. 17. Not against. One abstain, not against.
Motion for reconsideration for additional funds then double, then chief on last, so recognize the first motion for reconsideration.
Motion for reconsideration.
She remember not already.
You voted yes?
Yes.
Yes, about the woman here we have it today on the proposed amendment to the decent work. Because it's very critical, so colleagues, I want you to please be independent. Our guests are here already. Here so that you can participate in the public here. I put in a chat room that today, having consulted with the ROA, that today at 3 p.m. we'll hold a public hearing on the proposed amendment to the decent work.
Exactly, it's important.
All right? Yeah. So we invited stakeholders, concessionaires, corporations, public sector institutions. They are all here now.
Right.
So I want to appeal to you, colleagues, so please remain after a session or immediately after lunch, so that we can engage them.
No time before we adjourn.
We're adjourned, I'll listen to you, and then we appeal to all the senators to come right back after the break.
Thank you, President. I think before we adjourn, yesterday was the President's birthday, so we did a sing. You want to happy birthday?
So thank you so much for all the honors yesterday. For let's stand and sing a happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, dear. Happy birthday to you. May God bless you. May God bless you. May God bless you. Happy birthday to you.
President, having created a report for the ambassador. I withdraw my motion.
Motion for adjournment.
Objection.